In 1979, Sweden passed a law making it illegal for a parent to hit their own child. It was the first country in the world to do it, and more than 30 nations have followed since. That law didn't only change what happens with a parent's hands. It changed what happens with a parent's mouth. Once physical punishment stopped being an option, a whole vocabulary of threats, comparisons, and forced apologies started getting quietly retired too. Because most of that language existed to prop up a system of control the law had just made illegal. So today, 18 phrases you will almost never hear a Scandinavian parent say to their own child, and the real cultural and legal reasoning sitting underneath each one. Some of it traces back to specific laws. Some of it traces back to a novel from the 1930s that somehow still shapes how strangers talk to each other on a bus in Oslo. All of it adds up to a fairly consistent theory about what a child actually is. Before we go on, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far this story travels. And if you're loving it so far, join the family by hitting subscribe, because tomorrow we've got something special lined up just for you. Number 1. Because I said so. Norway created the world's first ombudsman for children back in 1981. An entire government office built around representing children's interests. That kind of institutional weight behind a child's right to an explanation, not just an instruction, filters down into ordinary living rooms. Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland have since set up equivalent offices of their own. A Norwegian or Danish parent is far more likely to give a short reason, even an imperfect one, than to fall back on pure authority with nothing behind it. It's a small habit, one extra sentence tacked onto a rule, but it adds up across a childhood. Number 2. Don't cry. Or its close cousin, you're fine. Sweden's parental health clinics, the Barnavårdscentraler, run structured parenting groups built around something close to emotion coaching. Name the feeling, sit with it, then move forward. In that model, a crying child gets a beat of acknowledgement before anything else happens. Number 3. Be careful, shouted the second a child climbs something. Norwegian researcher Ellen Sandseter has spent years studying what she calls risky play, and her findings suggest children allowed manageable risk, real heights, real speed, real tools under supervision, tend to develop better long-term judgment than children who get pulled back from all of it. Reflexive alarm works against the exact skill it's trying to protect. A cross-cultural study using virtual reality playground scenarios even found that Norwegian children showed higher risk willingness than Canadian children, and that willingness predicted better judgment on a separate simulated road crossing task. Comfort with manageable risk carried over into real caution somewhere else entirely. Number 4. You're the smartest kid in your class. Scandinavian culture still carries the imprint of Jantelagin, the 10 unwritten social rules laid out by author Axel Sandemos back in 1933, starting with, you're not to think you're anything special. Even parents who've never heard of Sandemos tend to avoid language that ranks their own child above other children. Number 5. Generic, good job, handed out for absolutely everything. Swedish preschool guidance leans toward naming the specific action instead. Something like, you stacked those blocks so carefully they didn't tip, rather than handing out a label. A vague compliment teaches a child nothing about what actually worked. Number 6. It's too cold to go outside. There's an old Scandinavian saying that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing, and outdoor kindergartens built around friluftsliv, the Norwegian devotion to open-air life, take that saying literally. Children in these programs spend large stretches of the day outside straight through actual winter. Weather is a clothing problem here, not a reason to stay in. Number 7. Say you're sorry, delivered the instant two kids collide. Early years training across the Nordic countries increasingly treats a forced apology as close to worthless, since a child performing the word sorry under pressure isn't the same as a child understanding what just happened. The pause to actually talk it through matters more than the fast resolution. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Number 8. Hurry up. Outdoor kindergarten days tend to run on unhurried block time instead of a tight adult schedule. A child stopping to examine a beetle for 10 straight minutes counts as the actual content of the walk to a Nordic educator, not a delay from it. Astrid, a mother of 2 outside Malmö, says the family rule is simple. Nobody in her house owns a watch on the way to daycare. The bus has a schedule. The walk to the bus stop doesn't. That unhurried pacing shows up everywhere in this culture, which is a big part of why this channel keeps circling back to it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a fine moment. Number 9. What a good girl. Stockholm's Igalia preschool, opened in 2010, became known for stripping gendered language out of its classrooms entirely, using the pronoun hen in place of han or han. Igalia is one school, and its methods aren't standard practice across the whole country. The instinct behind it runs wider than that one building, though. Praising a child's character, instead of a gendered performance of it, shows up in teacher training well beyond Stockholm. Number 10. Boys don't do that, or that's for girls. The same gender-neutral pedagogy movement behind Igalia has shaped teacher training more broadly across Sweden. Toys, books, and even seating arrangements in a number of Swedish preschools are deliberately organized so no activity gets coded as belonging to one gender. Number 11. Never talk to strangers, delivered as blanket fear. Nordic countries consistently rank among the highest in the world for social trust, and that shows up in small, everyday choices, like a parent leaving a baby asleep in a pram outside a cafe while ordering coffee inside. The instinct is to teach a child how to read a situation, not to fear every adult they don't already know. Number 12. We can't afford that, used as a conversation ender. Scandinavian parents often walk through the actual reasoning behind a no instead. Why this and not that? Treating a child as someone capable of following a decision rather than someone to be managed. Lagom, the Swedish idea of having just the right amount, sits quietly behind that habit too. Number 13. Wait until your father gets home. Sweden introduced a non-transferable daddy month of parental leave back in 1995, reserved specifically for fathers, and forfeited entirely if it went unused. That policy pushed shared caregiving into law, and discipline shifted along with it. Handing off the hard conversation to one parent, usually whichever one works outside the home, doesn't fit neatly into a household built around 2 equally present parents from the start. Iceland and Norway built similar use-it-or-lose-it father quotas into their own parental leave systems not long after, which means the entire region has spent close to 3 decades normalizing fathers as full, present, first-resort parents rather than backup enforcers. Number 14. You'll thank me later. The phrase waves off whatever a child is feeling right now, in favor of some future the child can't see yet. Nordic parenting guidance built around the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which several Scandinavian countries were early to fold into domestic law, tends to treat a child's present objection as worth actually hearing, even on the days when the answer stays no. Number 15. That's such a baby thing to do. Shame aimed at a child's developmental stage doesn't have much of a place in a culture that treats regression, a 5-year-old suddenly wanting to be carried again, as ordinary, rather than something to be teased out of a kid early. Number 16. I'm disappointed in you. Swedish parenting materials, distributed through organizations like Rädda Barnen, the Swedish arm of Save the Children, draw a hard, consistent line between commenting on what a child did and commenting on who a child is. The behavior gets addressed directly. The identity stays out of it. Number 17. Finish everything on your plate. Many Swedish förskollor serve meals family style, letting children serve themselves and stop whenever they're full, an approach close to what's sometimes called division of responsibility feeding. The parent decides what's on the table. The child decides how much of it goes on the plate. The theory behind it is straightforward. A child who's allowed to notice their own fullness keeps that skill into adulthood, while a child pushed past it learns to override the signal instead of trusting it. Number 18, and the one that quietly ties the other 17 together, a flat no with nothing attached to it. Scandinavian parenting culture generally treats a child as someone owed a reason, not a subject to be managed. Every phrase on this list, the missing threats, the missing shame, the missing blanket fear, traces back to that same root. A short explanation costs a parent almost nothing, and it's usually the difference between control and actual cooperation. None of this means Scandinavian parents never lose patience or never raise their voice. They're still parents, and toddlers are still toddlers. What's different sits underneath the frustration itself, built up over decades of law, research, and a culture that keeps landing, again and again, on the same conclusion. A child is a small person, not a problem to be handled. None of these 18 phrases got banned by decree. Nobody in Stockholm or Oslo signed a form promising never to say, "Hurry up" again. The language simply stopped fitting once enough of the underlying assumptions changed, one law and one preschool curriculum at a time, and 18 ordinary sentences quietly fell out of use. If this changed how you think about the words you reach for, hit like, subscribe to the channel for more of this, and drop a comment. Which of these 18 surprised you the most? I read every single one. Thank you for watching. Another one's coming tomorrow.